Southside.
When you work against each other, you're weaker. But if you can somehow put aside your differences and work together, you can be so much more stronger. And I once said if Unique and Rock could ever find a way to work together, they would make one formidable team. And that's what seems to have transpired at the end of Season 2. Principles of Law 2 from the 48 Laws of Power say never put too much trust in friends, but learn how to use enemies. And by hiring a former enemy, they'll be more loyal to you than a friend, because he has more to prove. In fact, you have more to fear from friends than enemies. And this is one of the elements which will become even more transparent as we run through this video, because the relationship between Unique and Rock has done a complete 360 from Season 1. But there are a few factors at play. A smirk from Rock and a sparkle in Unique's eye tells us, had history played out a little different, Unique and Rock may have been an item. But with Sal Buscemi's men storming into Unique's place of business and killing his right-hand man and most loyal soldier in War-El, which I will dissect to as to why he was Unique's most loyal, but with the death of War-El and the attack on Southside, Unique had no choice but to get involved in a battle which he wanted no part of.
Sal Buscemi is coming for you.
And I'm betting you told him where to find me.
Now you know I ain't the kind of nigga to go tell him. It's not who I am.
Now, Jersey may have been a vacation for Unique, but Southside will always be home. And Joey Badass once said this on Unique and Rock. They have a lot more in common than they might want to believe. And I think that kind of just shows that connection, and even foreshadows it a little bit. And they do have a lot more in common than they might think. They're both alphas, they like doing things their way, and they will use any means by necessary to get what they want. Now there are a few key differences, which we'll come back around to later on. But the signs were there about them possibly working together, but sometimes it takes war, death of loved ones, pain, and an attack on their home to see the light. And so now going into Season 3, arguably the most realist character on Power has now teamed up with Raquel Thomas. The history between Unique and Rock started even before we met our characters in Episode 1 of Season 1, and the conversation at Lamont's Diner does suggest things could have been different between the two. But even though we were introduced to Unique as somewhat the villain, it was clear from Howard's perspective, Rock was the worst thing that happened to Southside.
We both know one of the worst things ever happened to Southside was Raquel Thomas taking over for High Post.
But regardless, Unique showed he was someone who was more than fair. Even though he was the biggest drug dealer in Southside and competition to Rock, he gave her the corners she asked for. But a mistake by Kanan and D-Wiz attacking a corner that Rock gave up and killing Buck 20 ignited this war between Unique and Rock, and a back and forth throughout Season 1, and various chess moves which involved the use of Davina and Scrappy swung the battle in Unique's favor. But losing battles is a part of the game, because it's all about who wins the war, and Rock won the war in Season 1 when she sent Unique down for Howard shooting. But sometimes the war is bigger than you think, and we're gonna get to Stefano Marchetti in just a moment. But Season 2 started with Unique's back against the wall, and even though he looked like a defeated man, he made the Italian alliance, and he proved he could still hurt Rock.
You see what I did here? So you know I could still touch you, baby. You know I could still make problems for you and these fucking Colombians.
Unique's game throughout Season 2 was a clever game of chess where he took the backseat for majority of the season, because there weren't many options at his disposal, and the writers threw us a real curveball when they showed Unique playing checkers rather than chess, when in reality, it was Unique who was playing the long game of chess, and the man who was the most influential and loyal to Unique was War-El. Despite War-El flipping over to Rock's team at the beginning of Season 2, the aftermath of this showdown between Unique and his former right-hand man put it into perspective who the real enemy was, Rock, and so they cleverly hatched a plan to have Unique's product intercepted by the Italians in Jersey, a spot which War-El set up on purpose to get Unique back in the game, and with the help of Sal Buscemi squeezing Rock, Unique was back in, and it really was a clever use of Principles of Law 22, using the surrender tactic to transform a weakness into power, because it would have been easy for Unique's first instinct to retaliate with aggression, which he did by taking Juliana, but he surrendered to give him an opportunity to strike, more so when the time was right.
You won. For real, you did it.
Now, throughout Season 2, it became more apparent despite the handshake from Sal Buscemi and Rock, it was never going to be a partnership that could work in the long term, especially after Marco's death. And deep down, Unique knew what the Italians were. Majority of them were racist and would never accept working with Rock, and they also turned on Unique. And so he may have helped Marco, and he may have given the heads up about Rock's product coming into Jersey. But with Sal Baselli's men showing their true colors, along with Worrell's death, Unique was Team Rock, because as the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Unique also had more than one occasion where he could have snaked Marvin and Rock, but he stayed true to himself, and he stayed true to the streets.
I down Rock out to you? That makes me a fucking snitch. I ain't going out like that, man.
I may have been questioned in my stance for saying I was Team Unique early in Season 2, but reading between the lines and the storyline and the interviews that the characters have done before and during Season 2, it was clear to see Unique was never going to be a snitch, and he was arguably the MVP. And so when and if Unique does go out, it's going to be on his own terms, and he's going to go out like a fucking gangster in a blaze of glory. But going into episode 10, the questions were what role Unique plays, because he was watching the war from afar and sitting back, because war is bad for business, and the last thing he wanted to do was end up in an orange jumpsuit behind bars, especially after he was just recently released. And his intentions were to stay far away from this war as possible between Rock and Sal Baselli. But the attack on him and the death of Worrell definitely changed things. As I mentioned before, we can't underestimate the impact and loyalty Worrell had to Unique. And even if I would have preferred him to die at the hands of Scrappy, Marvin, or Lou, this wouldn't have been possible at the end of episode 10. So with Rock with her back against the wall and staring right at death, the most unlikely character came to her rescue, Unique. But having said that, even though Unique and Rock may now have a newfound respect for one another, they are two alphas who will definitely find themselves starting from scratch in Season 3, because they no longer have Joaquin as a connect, and Dean ain't fucking with them either. So is this where Stefano could strong-arm them in working for him? Because as his character description says, he is the godfather of New York City's crime scene. So Stefano is someone to watch in Season 3. But did Unique also foreshadow what could be next?
Crack dying. Business is changing, man. We gotta change with it.
He even told Rock him and Worrell were gonna be on their own shit, and that's because he's thinking 3 moves ahead. He's realized crack is dying, and they need to move on to the next best thing. So maybe he was talking about a new drug, or maybe he was actually coming around to the idea of working with Rock. Now, even though both Unique and Rock have been wounded in their own way, wounds heal, and when they do, you only come back bigger, better, and stronger. And no doubt, they will be back with a point to prove. But many clouds do remain over this relationship, and more so from the side of Rock than Unique, because we made a point of how Unique is loyal to the streets. But what happens when and if Unique finds out Rock was Howard's snitch back in the day? Let's not forget, they also walked out to Howard bringing Kanan home. And so will Unique find out Howard is Kanan's father? Because if he does, he holds a card that can destroy the reputation of Rock in the streets, should he ever need to play that card. Principle 5 from the 48 Laws of Power does say, so much depends on your reputation, and you have to guard it with your life. And so it's the most powerful weapon if you let out the secrets of your enemies, which could ruin their credibility in the streets. What's also intriguing, in Season 3, we may see the first interaction between Unique and Kanan Stark, and that's something to look forward to. But the interaction with Kanan is just scratching the surface with Unique's character. With the death of Worrell, who was Unique's right-hand man, I fully expect them to introduce his brother Ronnie.
Your brother would have never done shit like that.
Yeah, maybe not. You see, Ronnie's upstate for the rest of his natural life, and I'm running the show right now, so I do what I want to do.
Power have a history of not only teasing characters, but releasing characters from prison on technicalities, and so no doubt, they've left a clue in the very first episode, and so in my opinion, Ronnie is definitely someone to keep an eye on at the beginning of Season 3. And so with that being said, that's a breakdown of the ending of Raising Kanan Season 2, where we saw Unique come to the rescue, but it also leaves many questions for Season 3. In my opinion, I think we're gonna see Ronnie, but what happens when and if Unique finds out Rock used to be a CI? And what role will Stefano Marchetti play? For now, is Southside united as one? And this war with the Italians may not be over after all, but drop all your thoughts down below on the ending of Raising Kanan Season 2. And of course, if you are new to the channel and you haven't done so already, then remember to smash the subscribe button if you want to see everything Power Book 3 and Power Universe related. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.